Good evening and welcome to Crossroads Career webinar tonight. We're happy to have you here. Thank you for coming. We always appreciate a big crowd, so I hope you enjoy tonight's program. My name is Tom Jacobson. On a volunteer basis, I lead the program, the Crossroads chapter out of Woodbury, although right now we're virtual. But we have 3 locations, one in Woodbury, one in Eden Prairie, and one in North Heights, Minnesota, so or Roseville area. You know, when we do go back to live sessions, you'll be able to join us in one of those locations and hopefully enjoy the programs that we have there and the other offerings we may have. We have a lot of programs that we run through Crossroads. All of them mostly are free. And so there may be occasionally there's a small cost, but generally they're all free. So check that out. You can, and I'll go through in a web.
Tom,
Career transition speaker. And once that's done, we can, are we having trouble, Harry?
You were frozen up earlier, but you're fine now.
Okay, very good. And there'll be a program where there'll be a speaker that'll talk about transition, and then our main webinar tonight by Natalie Ackerman will be for an hour long, and then we'll wrap up at the end about Crossroads. So stick around for that. Let me just share this tonight with you, some wisdom from the Bible in the book of Psalms, chapter 37, verse 5 and 6. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will do this. He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, and the justice of your cause like the noonday sun. God gives us great advice in scripture, and if you lift yourself up to the Lord in prayer and ask him to help you with your issues, that burden can be lifted from you, and you can shine all the better when it's necessary. And in job search, we have to shine a lot, and the better our burden is off of us and our ability to shine is there, we have the opportunity to get the opportunities we seek and want and desire. So help yourself by talking with God through prayer, and allow yourself to be successful. Let me open here quickly with a prayer. Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight to share and to grow. Guide us where your plans lead us. If we are new to transition, help us to talk with you and to help us to understand where we need to go and what we need to do to strengthen ourselves in our job search. Give us the strength that's necessary to persevere through some of the challenges we experience through this journey, and allow us to be successful and find the career opportunities that we all desire and deserve in our lives so that we can better serve you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. At this time, what I'd like to do is introduce our transition speaker to tell his career story and about his faith. And in this case, his name is Tom Colosimo. And Tom and I have worked together for a long time in the transition volunteering. And he's going to be sharing his story via video. This is so bear with us if we have any issues getting this up and running. But here's Tom Colosimo. He's currently at the Twins game. So he's sharing his story with you via video. Take it away, Tom. Harry, I think we're experiencing some mic issues.
Founding until the early 2000s, to my dedication to networking over the last basically 20 years. I'm a career changer. 25 years working in accounting until the early 2000s. And then at that time, I took over leadership of the Woodbury Lutheran Church Career Transition Connection in 2002. and actually led that until 2019 when we merged in with Crossroads at that time. And of course, COVID made an impact on things since then as well too, everything going virtual. But my point here is to talk about networking and spiritual focus when we're going through times of change. I did a lot of praying and soul searching back in the day when I made my move from accounting into recruiting. I talked to my wife quite often about it. I did a lot of soul searching. I talked to other people who were recruiters and tried to find out a little bit what the day in the life of a recruiter is and was, and decided to make that change. I just had it working in accounting for 25 years. Had a bumpy ride closing down places back in the 80s and 90s when manufacturing went through some tough times, and laying off people and becoming more or less a hatchet man. It just kind of wore thin on me at that time. I had taken some assessments at the time in early 2000s when I was in between that role of accounting and moving into recruiting. Took some assessments that had to do with what my really strengths are, what I enjoy doing, things of that nature. And one of the many things kept pointing to helping people help themselves. And that would be like a social person, social worker, but I really didn't see myself as being a social worker. But as I grew into this plan through thoughtfulness, through prayer, daily prayer, thinking about what I want to do when I grow up again was a phrase that's commonly used, and really think back to those times, talking to my wife, talking to people, it really became more clear that this could be something of a great potential for me to help people by helping them find accounting jobs in particular, seeing that I had been an accountant for over 25 years. So I knew what it took to be in a controller position, or what it was to be a cost accountant, or accounts payable clerk, or accounts receivable clerk, all the above. Because I had hired and fired, unfortunately, many people over the years in those roles. So it seemed to make a perfect fit to do that. And I did enjoy it. I knew what my clients wanted. I gave them the best candidates possible to make the fit, to make the match, so to speak. And I grew into that role for about 5 to 6 years. And then the next turnaround came in 2008 when the Great Recession came. And it wasn't a good time to be a recruiter. The growth was starting to plateau, and things were starting to look a little bit dim. Not making the money that I would have liked to at that point in time. So I did some more soul searching again, and more praying, and talked to God about what I want to do, what I should do, and again, helping people. It was really just a magical thing out of the blue that appeared to me on one of the job boards called TCHRA, TECRA board, Twin City Human Resources Association board, at that time in 2009, very early 2009, late 2008. And I saw a job for a career coach advertised at the University of St. Thomas, MBA Opus College of Business in Minneapolis. Now, it helped that I was a Tommy grad, I'll grant that, but I also investigated that, networked with the career services people, and got to know what it was about, and got to know the people there again. And by just the luck and blessings that I received at that time, I interviewed and went through 3 rounds of interviews, and I was working there within a month. No doubt, I'm not kidding. There was about a month's time between my start to finish that I ended up taking the job as a career coach, corporate relations manager with the University of St. Thomas, Minneapolis campus. And I think it goes back to having a boss at that time who was very open and understanding of my corporate background, the strengths I bring from a recruiting background, because she herself had come out with corporate background and recruiting background with Target Corporation. So again, the alignment of things that just happen. Sometimes they just happen. You can say it's dumb luck, just the luck of being in the right place at the right time. But I believe it also was the will of God and the will of my friends around me to help me with that too. God puts people in place to help you at times for that reason. And again, I had some great people to support me through the process. So then I went into career coaching in 2009 there, helped many MBAs, alums, and current students from the full-time program and the part-time program. And worked there for a total of 8 years. In that role, corporate relations, getting out in the community and meeting with many corporations, bringing them to our campus for internships, on-campus career fairs. It was just a great time. It was a really my energies really flowed and grew at that time as I got out and mixed and mingled with different corporate people around the Twin Cities area. I couldn't have asked for a better situation with a better organization as the University of St. Thomas is, and how it's so well recognized in the local community. An easy sell, that's the way I put it. It's easy to sell our product and have them come to our career fairs and to have them talk and interview with our MBA graduates. That was really important. So I did that until 2016. Then they had some downsizing and layoffs that took place at the University of St. Thomas. Some new management came in and they were going a different direction. So long story short, I got more involved with contract work. I took on some projects as a corporate recruiter for a 4-month stint at Wells Fargo Corporation. I wanted to learn more about corporate recruiting so I could understand that more. I had worked in agency staffing recruiting before that, back in the early 2000s, mid-2000s. But I wanted to learn more about what it was like to work inside a large corporation using brass ring or Taleo systems to do the ATS, automated tracking systems, screening process. And that was really an eye opener, just to see how resumes get processed and how it's all mechanically done, going through that process for 3-4 months. And then I took another contract job with ECMC in Minneapolis as a career coach for their online college program that they only invested in for 1 year. But I was part of the team there and got to meet with recruiters online across the country to help students across the country get jobs. So it was really a whole different dynamic at that time. Everything was virtual. As we talk about now being normal, or no, normal at this time, that was normal at that time, way before the pandemic time frame. So I, again, was lucky to get into that, involved with that. All along, the belief of networking is so important too. I mean, getting these jobs isn't just walking in and getting a job. You have to know people. The ECMC position I got involved with in 2017 was somebody reaching out to me who had known me for years and years, had worked with me in the distant past, said, "Hey, Tom, I think we have an opening here. We need your help. Would you like to join our team?" It was that simple. And it happened. And I worked there for a year until they decided to change the courses of ECMC and they actually sold out that whole division. But the point is that networking is so important, just that we go through these job clubs, things like that, that we have worked with for years and years, that I have worked with for years and years, and also the prayerfulness, the thoughtfulness, and really taking time to meditate and soul search to what really makes you happy with the gifts that you have. And sure, you can develop new gifts, you can develop new talents, that's fine. But what really makes you happy when you get up in the morning and go to work is so important, because you will perform better, you'll perform at a top level, versus if you take a job that's not that great, not tapping into your skills and gifts that you have very well, where you won't perform at that level, and you won't have that happiness really to help, connect with people around you in a good way. So my long story short here is that the gifts that we are given through the art of networking and always lifelong learning, talking to people, understanding what's going on in the industry and the marketplace so that you stay relevant. It's very important, as well as praying. Give yourself time to pray and just take some quiet moments every day. Read a Bible verse, whatever it does that can really bring you together and have your connectivity take place. But stand back from all the rush and running around and interviews and feeling panicky, to calming down, taking deep breaths, and pray thoughtfully about really what you want to do, what gifts you have that you can use, and the power will come to you. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Well, that worked out pretty well. And thank you, Tom, for that message. We sure do appreciate it. Like I said, I've known Tom for the last 8 years in this through volunteering through Crossroads. And at this time, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce Natalie Ackerman, who's a management career coach and has done a lot of coaching in and around the corporate world. And Natalie's going to talk tonight on how to maximize your strengths in job search. And during her presentation, if you want to put questions in the chat function down at the bottom of Zoom, I will monitor that, and we'll interact over those, and hopefully make this a little more interactive of a presentation and webinar. So it's all on you. If you have questions, put it in the chat and we'll get it to Natalie and she'll answer it, and hopefully make this more meaningful for everyone. Natalie, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you. Good luck.
All right, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. I have no idea how many of you are out there, but it sure is a nice night, so I hope there's somebody out there. And so thank you for joining us. I'm going to share my screen here. And so, all right. Hopefully everybody can see. And so I am here to share with you about how you maximize your strengths in job search. This is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart because it was through discovering my own strengths that back in 2008, when I was in what I call my unhappy job, somebody introduced me to it was called then the Strengthsfinder Assessment. Now it's called Clifton Strengths. But somebody introduced that to me, and it was really eye-opening. In fact, it was really what led me to a complete career change. And so I know that in the audience today, some of you have taken the Strengthsfinder assessment and others of you haven't. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Strengthsfinder, but I'm also going to speak generally so that this is something that everybody can enjoy and get some good insights from. And I'm going to tackle this from kind of the overarching theme of your strengths really are the secret ingredient to your success. And so I don't know if there are any cooks in the audience, but my husband and I love to cook. And, you know, we have some family favorites, and some of you might have a family recipe that's been passed down from generation to generation, but usually there's a secret ingredient in that recipe, and some of you will closely guard that recipe and that ingredient for your life, and others of you not so much. But I think that, you know, your strengths are really the secret ingredient to how you get things done in your job, and how you've had success and the unique value that you bring. So I like to say that in your job search, you are a salesperson, and in the fine print, you can see whether you like it or not. And so I know it takes tremendous gumption and courage and strength to show up and, you know, do job transition. I've been in a few transitions myself, and I know how rigorous it is, and how you know, it's just, you have to show up with your best self every day, even when you're not feeling like it. Well, hopefully today is going to give you some clarity around the unique value that you bring, and it's going to, you know, help carry you through and encourage you in your job search. So,
Natalie,
yeah,
Natalie,
yeah.
Your presentation is showing the presentation mode rather than
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for interrupting and sharing that with me.
No problem.
The last time I shared with the group, my presentation never went up. So let me try this again. Okay. All right. Now, are you seeing?
Perfect.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So you're a salesperson, whether you like it or not. And, but here's kind of the kicker, is that even after you get your job, you're still in sales. And whether we realize it or not, we're really all in sales every day. Even if you don't have the title of salesperson, you're still in sales, because you think about, you're trying to influence people to your point of view. You have an idea that you want to get people on board with. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or the classical salesperson, you're always in sales. But in your job search now, the difference is that you are the product. So you're not selling a widget, you're not selling a car or software, you are the product. And so to be effective at selling your value to a potential employer, you have to do two things. First of all, you need to know your product. And secondly, you need to believe in your product. So when I ask people, I do a lot of coaching around preparation for interviewing, and that classical question of, what are your strengths? And believe it or not, most people really flounder with that question because they don't really know their product. And so it's hard to articulate the value you bring if you don't know your product. And so that's why I think there's so much value in taking assessments like the Strengthsfinder and DISC and other great assessments out there to give you some line of sight into your product, which is you. But then the second thing is you need to believe in your product. And so my question to you is, how well do you know your product, and how will you sell your product? I'll never forget, there's a story of when I was doing a big training in Las Vegas to a room of 100 people that I had never met. I was so nervous. I needed good shoes. I was going to be standing on my feet all day, and I went to the shoe store. And the salesperson, she really had this shoe in mind for me, but they didn't have it in my size. And so she says, well, I think what you could do is you just need to stuff some napkins in there, or, find something that you can put in and it'll do the trick. Well, the bottom line is I got to Las Vegas, and if any of you have been there, one city block is like the equivalent of 5 of our city blocks because everything is ginormous there. And the hotel we were in was like 2 city blocks large, and my feet were killing me. And I ended up having to take those shoes off most of the day. So when I got back in town, I took the shoes back, and, I still needed some shoes because I do a lot of training. And so I got a different salesperson this time. And this was a young kid, and I'll never forget, because he was the best salesperson I've ever experienced. So first of all, he sat down and he asked me a lot of questions. He apologized to me for the bad experience. And then he said to me, well, tell me about your training. Like, put me in the situation. Where are you standing? Are you standing on concrete? Are you standing on carpet? Where are you, and how are you conducting this training? So he really did a thorough needs assessment to understand what my need was. And then he said, well, based on what you've said to me, here's what I recommend. And there's 2 shoes that I would recommend. And I never forgot that experience, because he knew me, he took the time to get to know me, and he knew his products as well. And he could tell which product was going to be the right fit for me. I was extremely happy. I have bought several pairs of those shoes over the years. And so the difference between being effective in your job search and selling you and being ineffective is really knowing your product and believing in it. So to that end, what makes you stand out? I have a hypothesis that, all things being equal, between candidate A and candidate B, let's just say that you have the same resume, you've gone to the same school, you have the same degree, pedigree, you've got the same skills, same number of years of experience, you've got the same title, everything is the same. Well, if you're competing against somebody else who's equally qualified, how do you stand out? Well, I think it's your strengths. The difference is that, your strengths tell us how you do things and why you do things and get work done and get results done the way that you do. And it's unique to you. Okay. So I'd like to, this is where some participation from you. Let's just think about a part of your job that you really enjoy doing. Okay. Now I know that we can't all have every aspect of our job be wonderful and ducks and bunnies and we love it, but there, for the most part, there are some activities in your job that you truly enjoy doing. They energize you, you're excited about doing them. So Tom, can you help me monitor the chat here? I think I can see the chat. So, all right, here we go. Drop some of those things that you really enjoy doing in your work. All right, I'm not seeing anything yet. talking to people and assisting them with their issues. All right, thank you, Sheila. Anybody else? Running my reports. All right, boy, more power to you, Cindy. Mary Ellen, analysis. Okay, I need your help because that's not my strength. Anybody else? All right. Thank you for everybody who chimed in there. Oh, I see Felipe says the interactions with people. Now, Felipe, you and I are on the same page. Sheila, being a trusted advisor. I love that. Yes, that's a great feeling, isn't it? And so as you think about those things that you truly enjoy doing, I believe that it has a direct correlation a lot of times to your natural strengths. So I want to just share with you. So the Gallup organization has really turned corporations on their heels when it comes to their perspective about people's strengths. And so the old perspective that's pretty pervasive but changing is that we need to focus on the weaknesses and fix what's broken or missing. So when you think about when you were a kid and you brought your grade school, your grade report card, and you had 2 A's, a B, and a C, what'd your parents say to you? Well, we have to get that C up, right? Because there's this thought that we have to be well-rounded, right? We're supposed to get straight A's. And, we're told, well, you can get much better at anything if you just put your mind to it, or you just put some elbow grease into it, right? And that we're supposed to spend the most time on what we don't do well, because we're supposed to bring that up to being well-rounded. I coached a lady recently, and she's Chinese. So she's from China, now a US, living in the US for many years. And she was a data scientist, data analyst. And I did an assessment with her that indicated she is extremely extroverted and people focused. And she was shocked. I mean, this was so eye-opening for her because she was clearly in the wrong role. And this was life-changing for her. But she said, in my culture, we're taught to be excellent at everything. And so she says, I take this information and it's good to know, but you know what, I really, really want to perfect this. I really want to get good at this data scientist role. And I thought, well, you can do that, but let's just see how energized you are and how long it takes you to reach burnout. Because on the opposite side, where we have the new perspective, this is what Gallup organization, who is the organization that created Strengthsfinder, they said, no, we need to focus on strengths. We need to capitalize on what is working and what is present. And they believe you can only get so good at what you're not good at. And we need to focus the most time on what someone does well. So in the chat, I heard, I love analysis and things like that. Well, I can tell you, if I get into a job that is heavy analysis, I am going to be so drained and just that I'm not going to be able to sustain that for long term. So focusing on what I'm good at is really key. And like I said, I did a complete career change as a result of finding out what my strengths were, because the job I was in at that time, I was put onto a special project. And, when your manager asks you to be on a project, you don't say, no, I'd rather not. You say, of course. But I knew it was not going to be a fun project for me. And so basically what I was doing was untangling this snarled ball of invoices. And I was sitting behind a computer 6 to 8 hours a day. And I was so miserable. This was through an ERP conversion. If any of you have ever experienced that, I say it's a 4-letter dirty word because it is not fun. God bless the people who think it is and, can implement those. But for me, I was miserable. And that was when I was first introduced to Strengthsfinder. And when I got my results, it was so eye-opening. And I thought, I am 100% people and so very little in executing and analysis. and I'm completely in the wrong role. And so I did a lot of introspection, a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery to identify what I did want to do. And that led me to the career I'm in today. And I always say that I get to plurk every day. So I play and I work. And so now, is every day perfect? And do I have some activities that are draining and that, you know, I don't really enjoy? Yeah, I mean, every job has that. But I now get to focus on what I do well. And I'm very energized. So this is what Donald Clifton says: our greatest potential for success and growth lies in focusing on our strengths. So what is a strength? Well, Gallup has their version or their definition, and I'm not really using that. It's kind of technical. But I say strengths are the things that you do that make you feel energized and alive when you do them. Now, you may be drained at the end of the day, but mentally you are energized and ready to get up and tackle another day. So when I do an 8-hour training, standing on my feet all day, it's like being on stage for 8 hours. It's exhausting physically. I mean, I give it my all, but mentally I am so energized because you know what? People are learning and they're getting aha moments. And for me, that is incredibly energizing. So, you know what? You were born with these strengths and they're really how you're hardwired. In fact, they're so easy and effortless to you and come so naturally to you. You think, well, doesn't everyone do that? And it's the how and the why of what you do. And so I'll talk a little later about if there were, you know, if you're a project manager and somebody else is a project manager, you're doing the same job, but you're doing it differently. Neither one is better or worse, good or bad, but how you do it is different. And the why you do it the way you do it is different. But, you know, these strengths come so naturally to us that we think everyone does that. So for me, I have a strength called woo, which is very extroverted. Like I talk to people everywhere I go, in the line at the grocery store, on a shuttle bus ride to the airport. You know, I'm everywhere I go, on elevators. And I think everybody enjoys doing that. And some of you are bristling at the thought of that, like, no way would I do that. I look down in the elevator, I don't want to talk to anybody, right? And so, you know, we can miss that these are actually strengths. Or we might say, well, that was just my job. I was just doing my job. Well, I think, you know, you would do it differently than somebody else. And there's a kind of the secret sauce of how you do things, okay? So here are some examples of strengths. So some of you, like me with woo, you effortlessly and instinctively will start conversations everywhere you go, right? You think everybody loves doing that. Some of you think in a very orderly or timely manner, and that might be a strength called discipline. You might be somebody who can easily and naturally influence others, which is a strength called command. You know, these are the people that walk in the room and everybody knows they've appeared and they just, you know, they have that natural executive presence. Some of you can really see patterns in data and you love sifting through loads and loads of data and you can quickly see the patterns there. And that might be a strength of analytical, where other people would see, like me, I would see it and be overwhelmed and go, ugh, I'm going to go out and do something else because I'm out of here. Some of you just think that's awesome. Some of you just are naturally have a positive outlook on life. Believe it or not, that's a strength. Now, it can be a choice. And but some people, and maybe you've worked with them, you know, they're the cheerful people every Monday morning. And some of you introverts are like, oh, you know, here comes Bob, I gotta hide, you know, he's like too much sunshine for me. And some of you might be able to sort through clutter to get to the heart of matters. Or maybe you're really skilled at finding different ways to do things, and that could be the strength of strategic. And for others of you, you could be very natural at organizing people and events for optimal outcomes. And so again, if you're a project manager, you might say, well, yeah, I have to organize all the different variables of the project. That's part of the job. But you know what? Some of you do it just effortlessly, and it just comes like second nature to you. And you miss that this is a strength because it does come so naturally. So what does this actually look like? I'll talk about in a minute, but let's have a little bit of fun. So I think, if you could have taken the Strengthsfinder assessment when you were 2, or a DISC assessment, or Myers-Briggs assessment, whatever personality assessment you've taken, if you were able to read when you were 2 and take the assessment, your mom would have said, oh, that's little Harry, all right. That's little Tommy, he's always been that way. And so I believe that you've had clues about your strengths from the time you were very young. And so I love doing this activity where I ask you, what did you enjoy doing before you were 18 years old? Okay. So when you were a kid, think about, did you like to tinker? Did you like to build things? Did you like to have tea parties? What were you doing back then? Because I think there are clues as to what you're doing now. So I'm going to ask you to put some things in the chat. All right. Cindy, I see you've asked, what are some free assessments to take? Good question. I would Google that and just say free personality assessments. I don't know off the top of my head. It's been a while, but if I think of something, I'll let you know. Okay. Sheila, loved going to birthday parties, to gym class. And hi, Sheila, I know you, by the way. And yes, you are very outgoing. So you loved going, right? Birthday parties, gym class, helping others. Love that. Anybody else? Like I said, maybe we only have 3 people in the audience. I'm not really sure, but writing. All right. And so Cindy, I wonder if you are a slight introvert, maybe. You like that time to reflect and think. Anybody else? Felipe. What were you doing when you were young? Mary Ellen, reading. Mary Ellen, you're not a librarian, are you? No, okay. All right. Let's see, Felipe, same, being around people. Okay, very good. Well, I'll share with you some of the things I was doing, and maybe this will even trigger some things for you as well. So, I was teaching a classroom. So I made a makeshift classroom in the laundry room. So I'd drag chairs in there, and I'd have papers, and I would place them on the chairs, and I would teach my little students, right? So does that look at all similar to what I'm doing right now? The other thing I love to do was to sing to a large audience. I had the songbook to The Sound of Music. I don't have any idea how old all of you are on this call, but I'm old enough that we had clamp-on metal roller skates, not roller balls or roller blades, right? That's what they're called, like they do now. We had to actually put them over our tennis shoes. And so that's how old I am. But we, in our backyard, we had a big backyard, and then we had, our patio, and it was concrete. And I would zip back and forth on my skates, and I would sing at the top of my lungs to Julie Andrews' Sound of Music. And I'm sure my neighbors were calling my mom and saying, Mrs. Hall, would you please get shut your daughter up? Because I'm not a great singer, but boy, was I having a good time. And I loved organizing parties. I was the instigator all the time in the neighborhood. So I was doing something or other, including organizing the lemonade stand. When I was a top salesperson for the Girl Scout cookie fundraiser. And I was a team captain for my volleyball team, my JV volleyball team. And then I didn't settle conflicts between classmates, but I was adding in a couple here that some of you might resonate with. So maybe you were always the one that was kind of creating harmony and getting people to play together well. Some of you maybe loved studying science and history. So I see that some of you love reading. Maybe that was you. Maybe it wasn't science or history, but something else. And finally, some of you might have loved fixing broken things. And so, I love to kind of look at, does your then look like your now? And here's me. So, you saw what I was doing before I was 18. Well, now here's my career history. So I've been in sales and sales management, recruiting, training, project management, executive coach, entrepreneur. Here are my top 5 strengths on Strengthsfinder. And I don't mean to talk so much about myself here, but just to be able to connect the dots for you that, as you think back to when you were a child, many times you were already exhibiting a lot of these same traits. And so, I have Woo and Maximizer, and you can see those all on the screen. But I mean, does what I'm doing right now, which is training, presenting to all of you, does that look even remotely similar to what I was doing before I was 18? Yes, very much so. And so even from a young child, I was already hardwired to be doing these things. In fact, I remember in college, I had a speech class and I would be terrified. When I was driving, it was my day to give the speech and I'd be terrified driving. But I would over prepare and just drive myself crazy over preparing. But then when I got there, I would nail it. And I distinctly remember, and this is before I knew was walking with God and, a Christian, but I distinctly remember a voice inside of me saying, Natalie, someday you're going to make a living doing public speaking. And I know that was God. And that was him saying, this is a path that I have for you. And I've hardwired you for that. These are your natural strengths and gifts. And so each one of you have those gifts. And so hopefully tonight, this is going to start to get you thinking about these things and seeing them differently to see how unique you are and to empower you. Because I know how depleting job search can be. You're always feeling like somebody's judging you or critiquing you, in the interview process. And so I want to strengthen you today by saying you're very unique. And it's a good thing. So does your then look similar to what you do now? So here is one example. I'm going to call this guy Joe. So Joe, this is how Joe's strengths show up. So he's a supply chain manager, which is a very challenging job in today's environment. If any of you work with them or are one, I don't know. But here are Joe's top 5 strengths. And again, if we take Joe compared to any other supply chain manager, they're doing the same job, right? They're just doing it in a different company, different industry, but they're doing the same basic job, but they do it differently from each other, okay? And so in this case, Joe has a ranger, which really enables him to organize people and schedules, to be a good project manager, and to ensure that there's efficiency in this process. His relator strength enables him to build those trusted relationships throughout the organization and be able to partner effectively with suppliers, which right now is really critical. Well, at any time it's critical, but even now, because of the supply chain shortages, being able to build those strong relationships is really important. His achiever is all about setting goals and accomplishing them. Strategic. So again, in today's environment, being a supply chain manager, you have got to be creative, right? So that is where, he's able to create options and troubleshoot and be very, very fast about it. I call it the strategic strength. By the way, it's my number 34 strength, which is totally bums me out because that's the one I wanted the most. And because I got the full report, I found out it was at the bottom. So boo-hoo. Anyway, but strategic people, I call that your Terminator. Like if any of you ever seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movie, where he goes into a scenario and his computer is quickly doing all these calculations and probabilities, and quick, he can figure out the best way forward. And so strategic is like that. So don't you think that would be a pretty handy strength to have when you're trying to troubleshoot supply chain challenges, right? And then learner, which is it's a very curiosity-based strength. And so he's wanting to stay on top of latest trends. So that's how his strengths show up and enable him to be very effective in that role. And Tom, as I'm going along, if there are any chats here or questions, let me know. Feel free to chime right in.
Very good.
All right. So let's talk about the Strengthsfinder assessment, or now it's called the Clifton Strengths. Just for a second, if anybody has not taken it, here's how you can. So you can buy the hard copy book at any bookstore, but you can take it online. There's different options. You pay 20 bucks, best 20 bucks you're going to spend in your job search, I promise you. And it's going to include your top 5 strengths, which in my book is adequate, right? But if you want to take and find out what all 34 are, then you can pay $49.99. If you've already taken the assessment, got your top 5, you can upgrade for $39.99, I think. And Gallup now has a new report version called the Manager Report, which is $39.99, and that gives you your top 10 strengths. So that is very handy, I find, because, you know, top strengths 1 through 5 are those that you're using every single day. I liken it to your desk. You know, on your desk, you have your computer, you have a notepad, paper, stapler, whatever, the things you're using all the time. But your number 6 through 10 are those things that are in the file cabinet or the file drawer. So you're pulling, they're there, but you're pulling them out as needed. Now, Gallup has kind of sliced and diced the information from a manager perspective. So if you are a manager, I like the Manager Report because it's saying, here's your strength and how you uniquely manage people. But it's also giving you some insights into how you can manage others that have a given strength. So it's a really, I think it's very worthwhile. But anyway, all of the versions you get custom insights and action planning guide. I do have a tool that I wanted to leave you with, but I was trying to find how I can attach it in the chat, and the chat is not letting me upload something from my computer. It's only you know, asking for something on OneDrive or whatever. So feel free to email me and I'll be glad to send that over to you. It's a compilation of documents I've gathered from Gallup over the years, and it's really a very handy document. So, but note, you have to take the assessment new. You cannot use the same code twice. And so then I'm going to just address some of the frequently asked questions. The Strengthsfinder assessment has been taken globally by over 27 million people. It really is a movement. It is based on 50 years of research by the Gallup organization around how engaged are people at work. And so part of the Q12 survey that they do in companies, one of the questions is, do you have a chance to do what you do best every day at work? And to that answer, they found out at that time it was only 20%, but now it's increased, I believe, because so many people have taken StrengthsFinder and are now aware of their strengths, but only 33% of people are engaged at work. Now, is that a function solely of, you know, not playing to your strengths? Maybe not. You know, there are culture issues. You might not have a manager that you work well with. But I do believe that a lot of it is because people are not in the right role for their strengths. And in my coaching with people, I see that very frequently. So I think it is true. But when your report comes out, it talks about your rank order versus functioning order. And they talk about, you have 5 predominant strengths. They do work in pairs. They like to kind of work in cahoots, and that'll change depending on what you're working on. The functioning order is different than the rank order. The rank order is how you answered the questions. The functioning order is based on what you're doing at the moment. So, my top 2 strengths are very people oriented, but then it's followed by a few strengths that are more around the, executing or getting work done. Well, when I am doing a project and I'm putting together a presentation like this, I'm not really talking to any people. So my woo strength is really not in the top position. My maximizer strength, my arranger strength, those 2 are pairing up to help me to accomplish that goal. So I always encourage people to be strengths watchers, strengths catchers, pay attention to those strengths in action. But this is the part I love. And it is, there's a 1 in 278,000 possibility that you're going to have the same top 5 with someone else. And there's a 1 in 33.9 million possibility that you're going to have the same 5 in the same order. That's huge. That tells me you are totally unique. And so similar to your fingerprint, your strengths are unique to you. So God broke the mold when he made you. Seriously, you're one of a kind. And, but, I have to tell you, an interesting thing is that I did a workshop for a team like 5 years ago. Could not believe it. I actually had, I saw that 1 in 33.9 million possibility in that room, because 2 of the people in the room had the same 5 in the same order. I had to ask them 3 times. No, seriously, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because I couldn't believe I was seeing this statistic. So now, for those of you with input or learner and you're very curious, the most common theme worldwide is achiever, and the least common theme worldwide is command. And for those of you, if you haven't taken the assessment, have no idea what that's talking about. So now your curiosity is like, you got to go out and take this assessment. All right.
So Natalie?
Yeah.
Felipe has shared his recent Strengthsfinder review.
Oh, perfect timing, Felipe. Thank you. So Felipe, I want you to look on the current screen. Let's just see how many of you, I hope everybody has taken this. And I don't know how many people are on the line, but hopefully most of you have. If you have, on the screen right now, you can see the 4 theme domains of strength. And so much like other assessments where it's DISC or Myers-Briggs, they all have their 4 buckets, if you will. Now for Gallup, they call these the 4 domains of strength. And so you can see on the screen here, there's strategic thinking, and underneath the description are, because there's 34 total strengths, and each domain has roughly 8 to 10 of those that fall within that domain. So if I look at yours, Felipe, you have learner, input. So those are both in strategic thinking, and individualization is over in the relationship building, communication is in the influencing, and positivity is in the relationship building. And so you have 2 in strategic thinking, 2 in relationship building, and 1 in influencing. And so as I walk through this slide, I will tell you, most of the time I see people that have strength in their top 5, they will have strengths in 2 or 3 of the domains. Every now and then I'll see somebody with all 5 in one domain. And sometimes I'll see people with something in all 4. That's not as common. Now, there isn't really a hard and fast conclusion you can draw from this, but you can see where you're most energized. And so what that tells me about you, Felipe, is that you're very energized by thinking about, like you can see on the screen, you're energized by helping others make better decisions and stretch their thinking for the future. To you, thinking is action. You love analyzing and processing thoughts, collecting information, and devising a plan. But you also like to work with others. So it's very likely that you will kind of build those relationships with people to share your ideas, to sell your idea to them. And you use your communication strength that's in the influencing domain to get buy-in. So you've got a really powerful kind of combination going here. But one thing you might see, and a lot of times people will ask me this, well, I don't have anything in, like in Felipe's example, in the executing domain. Felipe, what do you do for work? What's your job title? If you can put that in the chat, that'd be great. You still there, Felipe? All right. But you know, sometimes, but you are a senior associate at a consulting firm. All right. And so we know in consulting, you're solving problems for your clients. And so you have to be very strategic, and you also have to be good with people. So the question is, well, gosh, I have to execute on things, right? So does this mean that I can't execute? Oh, okay. You worked with data analysis and contract analysis. See there? So yeah, strategic thinking. You're sifting through lots of information. And but as a consultant, you also have to be good at communicating with people and relating to them. So, but you don't have anything in the executing domain, at least not in your top 5. If you were to expand and get the full report, you might find that you have something in your top 10. And that's the value of having the more broad report. Knowing your top 10 can be helpful. But even if you didn't, what this is saying, it's not saying that you can't execute or don't execute. But what it does say is that you're energized by forming a plan, you know, analyzing the data, forming the plan, working with others to execute. But you're not necessarily the one who wants to be in the trenches, day to day, grinding it out, getting the tasks done. Okay. You'd rather work with people who do that. You like the analysis side of it. I see that Sheila says, my bucket is relationship building. And so I'll tell you an example of when I did a workshop for a team, and one of the gals on the team had all 5 strengths in the relationship building domain. And her teammates all were extremely strong in executing, which meant they were hunkered down, achieve goals, you know, get her done, implement. And they really were annoyed with her. Her name was Amy. And they were so annoyed with her because all she was doing was building relationships and, you know, chit-chatting with people all day long. And you know, she wanted to have the birthday parties and go out to lunch, and she was talking with her vendors and, you know, internal people. At the end of that workshop, I asked people, so what was your biggest aha from the day? And the executing team said, whoa, we had no idea what Amy's been doing and the value she brings to the team. We thought she was just goofing off and getting nothing done. But in fact, she was really building the rapport with our vendors and helping to pave the way for very productive relationships with them. She was doing customer service with our clients. You know, she was making relationships inside the company, and she had intel on like what other teams were doing and opportunities to collaborate, or where there might be some challenges. And so they said, wow, you know, we really need to learn what information she's gathering. And so, you know, there's strength in all of these. And just because you don't have something in one of these domains doesn't mean that you can't do those things. It means you're not energized to do them. I will frequently hear from people who are managers they'll say, well, I have to be an influencer. Why don't I have anything in the influencing domain? And the fact is that you don't influence by being that inspiring, energizing person. You know, like if you're a heavy executing person, you influence by rolling up your sleeves, getting other people to roll up their sleeves and work with you to get things done. Okay. So it's the lens by which you do the work that you do. Okay. So let's see. Felipe, one detail, because I was spending too much time with data manipulation and not too much with the relationship management. I think maybe I could be a better fit with more people-oriented role. Yeah, I think if you found something where you could do both, that would be really ideal. Like maybe a business analyst, you know, or a program manager. So just some thoughts for you. All right. So I'm going to walk through these domains real quick for you, just to give you a better line of sight. And again, you're going to have the ability to go back and look through this presentation again. But these, you know, the people in that strategic thinking domain, I like to call them kind of your visionaries, because they're the ones that are really, really good at thinking of out of the box solutions. They might be able to recognize emerging needs and come up with solutions. And they're like the possibility thinkers. So they're going to challenge the status quo. They're the ones who are going to always be like, well, what about this idea? Have you thought about trying that? Now, if you're working with somebody, if this is you and you're working with people who are strong executors, they may be annoyed and be like, you know what? No, we need to get going on this. You know, we don't need to ask all these questions. We've already got the plan, right? So there can be great tension when you're working with people that are of opposite sides from you. But these are the people, and this is all about the value that you bring to the table. So these are the ones who are encouraging people to see possibilities and think differently. Do I have, let's see, Cindy. Oh, I love this. So Cindy, I'm going to go back here. Empathy, harmony, consistency, adaptability, and input. So you are very much in the relationship building domain and in the strategic thinking and executing. So you really are a good people person, but you want to do your work in a methodical, consistent way that's fair and even. And you also like to gather lots of information, because people with input are kind of hoarders of information. Like you love information and you've got a whole filing cabinet of stuff. All right. So the mobilizers are executing domain. I call these the mobilizers because they like to organize and take charge. They will drive projects again across the finish line. They're the ones that, you know, when they're like when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's kind of their motto. Now, not so much for the people. They're like, when the going gets tough, the tough go have a margarita or something, you know, but anyway, they are the ones that are managing the details. They're going to make sure that this gets across the finish line. They're no nonsense. They don't like inefficiency. They're very likely to put a lot of process in place. And their tendency is to ask tough questions that no one else does. And then we have our connectors, or the relating domain. Now, these are words that I'm assigning. These are not from Gallup or anybody else. This is just me. So these are your relationship builders, where they're the ones that are going to help people work collaboratively. They're going to build trust and teamwork. These are the people right now during COVID who are the glue that's helping those teams as they're coming back together into the workplace or trying to figure out this hybrid thing. And it's stressful for everybody. You're the ones who are very intuitive to people's needs and concerns. Where our heavy executors, sometimes they're so focused on their goals, they aren't really aware of what's happening emotionally with people. So this is why people with that relationship building domain, they're really intuitive to what's going on with people. And so they're the experts at listening and coaching, communicating and facilitating. They like to listen and advise. They oftentimes will resolve conflict. And then lastly, we have the influencing domain, which I call catalysts. And these are like your change agents. They create a spark. They create urgency. They're like, status quo, no way. If it's broken, fix it. I'll give you an example of that from some work I'm doing right now with an executive team. There's one leader or one situation that's a relational situation that's very broken. And nobody's really tackling it. Like they're just kind of tiptoeing around it, but it's creating problems with people's morale. And so I am very heavy on that influencing domain. And remember, I said, be a strengths watcher or strengths catcher. And even in this situation, I recognize right there, that's where my influencing domain is coming in, because you know what? I'm talking to HR. I said, hey, we got to resolve this. And I proposed some solutions. And she said, I'm so thankful you did that, because I've been trying for years to do that. And nobody, everybody's just tiptoeing around it. So these are the people who are going to champion and launch new ideas. Now, they're not the ones that are going to come up with the original idea necessarily, but they're the ones that are going to take that visionary idea and they're going to ensure that they sell it throughout the organization. Okay. They are good at forging alliances inside the organization, and they know what it takes to create lasting change and big change. So here's the sign of a strength. If we, again, you're going to hopefully really have a good idea of where you're at. And so success. This is something that people will say, you have a gift for this. Okay. So you have been recognized or rewarded for doing this type of activity. You have instinct. So this is something you could do every day. You volunteer to do it. It's a no-brainer to you. This is where you are able to grow because you pick up on this activity very quickly. You think about this type of activity a lot, and you can't wait to learn new techniques for doing this activity. And then finally, it's a need. So if it's a true strength, it's something that you need to do. Like you really don't feel complete if you're not doing it. So for me, I used to be a co-owner of a financial services franchise where I was training large groups of people. I was running an office, doing marketing. I had my hands in everything, very big, doing a lot. And I loved it. And then I went into a corporate role and I was not doing any of that public speaking. And so I needed that. I missed that. And so, and I know some of you are like, really? People fear death and public speaking. And so you're nuts. But I'm hardwired that way. And so I needed to do it. And I found out the company I was with at the time had a volunteer program that you could facilitate the all-day orientation for new hires. So I signed up to do that. And because my job at the time wasn't allowing me to do that kind of activity, I found a way to make it possible. So for some of you, you may find that there's a job that's not fulfilling that need for you and it's not really feasible. So find something outside of work that you can, that's what your soul needs, right? Your soul needs it for just because it energizes you. All right. So here are some examples of strength statements, and this is pulled from the document that I'd love to give you if I could upload it, but just email it to me because it has some really good stuff like this or inputs. So maybe, you're the person who can help others peer over the horizon and see the potential for the future by asking what, did you ever think about, or wouldn't it be great if? When others say this can't be done, I look for options and I figure out how it can be done. Another one might be, if a team needs to be created, I should be involved because I recognize talents and skills and knowledge in people. I intuitively sense how very different people can work together. I have a relentless need for achievement, an internal fire that pushes me to set goals and to do more. I set the pace for the team and I facilitate highly productive work groups. People tell me that I'm genuine and authentic in my approach. I can develop enduring, trusted relationships with virtually anyone. Because of this, I build productive long-term relationships with internal and external clients at all levels. Last one, I have the ability to quicken the pulse of my surroundings and engage the exchange of ideas. I can take performance up a notch or several by just engaging others in conversations and by bringing talented people together. So, one more. Is enthusiasm contagious? I hope so. There are always challenges, but I'm the cheerleader and we'll keep moving forward no matter the obstacles. Can this information help you get a job faster? Absolutely. Why and how? Well, first of all, it's going to give you some self-confidence where you're going to know who you are and who you're not. So, if this isn't your first job search and your first rodeo, you already know kind of the blocking and tackling and the fundamentals of job search. And, but that self-confidence piece, you have to show up and bring your best self. Well, who is your best self? So part of that is knowing who you are and who you're not. For me, when I took that Strengthsfinder assessment the first time, wow, was it eye-opening for me, because I realized who I was not. And that was really empowering because I had never thought about that before. I mean, most of the time we know, yeah, my strengths are, I could tell you loosely, I'm really great with people. I'm very outgoing, but I could not tell you how or why I was. And when I found out that I have woo as my #1 strength, and I learned more about it, then I started thinking through different scenarios at work where that strength enabled me to have success. And I realized this is unique. This is different. In fact, I have a story about that where, I was a project manager and I was on a team of project managers, and two stories real quick. And so the project managers, and I was managing very fast-paced, smaller projects, but I was managing like 25 or 30 projects at one time. My colleagues, on the other hand, were managing big projects that were slow-moving, large. People would say to me, how do you do that? I don't understand how you can manage this fast-paced, chaotic, ever-changing, scenario. I wouldn't survive doing that. I didn't know it at the time, but now I know that was my arranger strength, which arranger is a very good, you can switch gears, very adaptable under pressure and things like that. The other example I have is when I was in marketing and we would deploy thousands of emails, and we'd always miss like 1,000 of them. It was just this broken process. And so I asked people like, well, how long has this been broken? Oh, it's been forever. We don't even remember. And I said, well, why doesn't somebody do something about it? Now, remember, that's me, the catalyst, the influencer, the spark, like status quo. If it's broken, hey, fix it and fix it now. And I'll bring urgency to it. So I'm like, this is just wrong. This needs to be fixed. This is really inefficient. Everybody's totally frustrated. Why isn't this getting fixed? People would tell me, oh, well, we've tried to talk to the operations team, but they get a little testy and they don't want us messing around in their garden. So we just dropped it and we just kind of coexist. I said, all right, now wait a minute, I'm going to use my strengths. Now, again, I didn't know my strengths at the time, but now I look back at it and I go, my instinct kicked in. I knew that I was good at winning others over. So I called the operations manager. I said, hey, Sue, I'm the new kid on the block, and I just want to understand how this process works. Could I just sit down with you? Sure, no problem. I sit down with her, we do the thing on the screen, and I said, hey, why do you put that in there and not this? Well, because that's the way we've always done it. Anyway, I'm asking questions. Finally, I said, could we try putting this in there and just see what happens? Sure, why not? Well, bottom line is that we eliminated several steps in the process, created efficiency, and now it was so much less cumbersome and so much more efficient, which saved the company time and money, right? And so, but it had been broken forever and nobody was fixing it. And that was my big aha, that I am different. that was a very clear example of how I showed up with my natural strengths to bring a solution to a problem. And you all have stories like that. And I really want to encourage you as you're developing your star stories or accomplishment stories, that you really put them through the lens of your strengths as well. Because it's your strengths, remember, that's your secret ingredient. It's the difference between candidate A and B. It's how you get things done and why you do them the way you do them. It's very unique. So get in tune with your strengths and know who you're not, because so many times people accept a job offer that's not a good fit. So knowing who you are and who you're not is going to help save you from a bad job fit. This is going to give you clarity around the unique value that you offer. And so you're going to be able to look at what the company needs most, and you're going to pair that with what you do best. And when you're doing that, that's going to bring success for you. And it's going to help you sell yourself more effectively, because you're going to come across with authenticity and conviction. And so for me, now I know what situations I am not going to bring value. And so I stay away from them. Why would I? That's like going back to the old perspective, which is you got to fix something that's broken. Well, no, I'm going to focus on my strengths and build on them, because that's where I'm going to have the most success. And those are the things that are deeply inbred in me that I have strong conviction about. And so I'm absolutely going to be able to sell myself more persuasively. And it's going to save you wasted time on companies or jobs that aren't a fit with your values and your strengths. So I want to kind of point out some additional resources. Feel free to take a screen capture of this. But one that I want to highlight here is number 5, go put your strengths to work. So Marcus Buckingham is actually the co-creator of Strengthsfinder, and then he left the company Gallup and formed his own company. And he wrote a follow-up book to Strengthsfinder called Go Put Your Strengths to Work. This was life-changing for me. And you can get it at used, you can get it used, right? You don't have to buy it new, don't spend a bunch of money on it. But this book, he goes through and really challenges you to think through work situations and where your strengths were and what was energizing you, what was depleting your energy. He has you write out strength statements. And it was through that book that I had some really major aha moments about myself. And one of them was, I don't like lingering problems. Like, I'm not the person that if this thing keeps lingering on and on, that I'm just this tenacious problem solver who's going to dig in and figure it out. Oh my gosh, you might as well stick a needle in my eye. I can't stand doing that stuff. But other people, they're totally energized by doing that. So really encourage you to pick up a copy of that. If you have kids, Strengths Quest is great for college students. Strengths Explorer is for kids that are ages 10 to 13. If they're 14 and they're pretty mature, you can have them take the full Strengthsfinder assessment. Okay. So with that, I will finish up. And, I like to say, go put your strengths to work. And I'd love to connect with you. So I am on LinkedIn. If we're not already connected, please invite me to connect. Check out our website. So I am the owner of Talent Edge Group. And on that website, when you first go on to it, and if you kind of start scrolling down, a little pop-up window is going to come up, and it will give you an opportunity to take a free assessment. It's a mini DISC assessment, if you will. It's meant for, it was kind of called work from home, but it gives you some loose insights onto, which in that case, the buckets are the DISC, and it's going to share with you where your strengths are there. I think there's a really nice correlation between Strengthsfinder and DISC. If anybody is interested in learning more about DISC, it's an assessment that I've been now working with for about 3 years. And I'll never be able to get rid of StrengthsFinder. I love and adore StrengthsFinder, but I also see the value in a DISC assessment. And I think there's a free one. If you, whoever asked that, Cindy, I think, just Google free DISC assessment. Now, remember, those are not really scientific, so the accuracy level might not be as high as a formal paid assessment. But if you're interested in talking about that further, let me know. Feel free to email me if you want that. It's called the Genius of Strengths. So if you write that down and you want to email me and ask me for that document, I'm very happy to send that to you. And I know you'll really get a lot of value from it. So there you go. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you very much for your time, Natalie. That was outstanding. Thank you. I sure did appreciate it. Learned a lot again. Thanks.
Good.
Especially about strengths, my strengths. And I've gone through a number of times. It seems they always mine sort of change as I'm working on something new, though. I noticed that. So I don't know if that's something I'm due to influence the results or what, but I'm interested in talking to you about that later.
Do we have time for me to answer that?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I forgot to address that, and I know other people have had that question. So when I was in my unhappy job and I took the assessment the first time, versus when I got out of my unhappy job and took it the second time, my strengths did change. And I use those results because I feel like those are more me. Mm-hmm. People will say, well, I took it again and some of my strengths changed. And yeah, it could be you're in a different role. So it might be that in your previous role, you weren't using people strengths, but you had them, they were there. They might have been in number 6 to 10, and now they've come into the top 5. Sure. I had a situation with a woman who, she didn't change jobs or anything, but her manager changed and a totally different management style. And so her strengths changed a little bit. And as a result of that. Okay. So, but if you're going to take it again, you have to use a different email address because sure. Gallup won't let you take it with the same email address. Very
good. Yeah, excellent. Well, that was thank you for helping that. Appreciate that. So I will move on and start our overview of Crossroads. So give me a second to share that with you all. If I can get back there, share my screen. Oops, we're starting at the end. Not a good start there. Excuse me. Just what I needed. Okay. Back. Well, it's going to be one of these days where everything just won't work. Okay, here we go. Okay, so welcome. So as being a participant on this webinar, you will receive a book, How Long, Oh Lord, How Long? It's a great devotional book and it was written by Dale Kirkenkamp. He did a great job with the book and he has presented for us also here on Crossroads webinar. So he's an excellent speaker too. So but the book is excellent, and I think you'll really get a lot of good use out of it as you are in transition. So let me talk about our website, which is www.mncrossroads.com. And I'm still one of those people that still has to do the www. I have no idea why, but I am that guy. And MN Crossroads, our website, has many things on it. One of which was brought up by 𝙈𝙖𝙭𝙭, who is behind the scenes tonight and is one of our great helpers here and the leader of Crossroads. So, but he brought up that you can get it free. We have some free assessments on the website. Look them up there. You can find some of the ones that are necessary for your job search. There's some other things on there like the job board. We get postings from jobs throughout the Twin Cities. The nice thing about our job post is there's a contact person there. So you can actually reach out to someone and get some more information if you're interested. So, and other things are like signing up for different things. And I will talk about that. And you're probably familiar with it because you had to sign up for this webinar. So moving on. I alluded to this earlier. We have 3 groups that we currently are doing most of our stuff online and sharing. But when we do go back to meeting in person, we meet in Eden Prairie at Grace Church, in Woodbury at Woodbury Lutheran Church, and in Arden Hills at North Heights Lutheran Church, which is, so we have one on the west side, one on the east side, and one on the north side of the Twin Cities. So if that one of those locations worked for you, when we get back to on-site presentations and seminars and offerings, check that out. Weekly opportunities. One of the key things in job search is networking. And if you're not networking, you're not going to see a lot of the jobs, because 80% of jobs are reached through networking. And we have one of the great networking groups that are led by Wes Tang and Wes Roper, and it's online right now. It meets every Thursday. You can sign up on the website, and really the 2 of them will help you with how to navigate the networking challenges and how to get some great networking connections. And I highly recommend you sign up for that for Thursday mornings. If you're like you're going to be doing some interviewing, or you're having trouble with interviewing, or you want to get some tips, you can sign up for one-on-one coaching. And we have coaches that specialize in that. We have coaches that specialize in resumes. We have coaches that can put a lot of different things together for it. So if you're interested in something related to coaching, check out our website, sign up for it, and you can get a coach to help you out with certain things. Now, job search can be a real bear, and can be frustrating at times and downright depressing. And if you find you could use a little help with that through some prayer, you can ask for some assistance from our prayer specialists who love to pray for people. And a lot of people will say that when people are praying for you, you can feel it. I believe in that. So if you're interested in having someone pray for you, you can sign up on our website. And the soul care people will help you out in that regard. Now, one of the key things that I feel is one of the big things that Crossroads really gives and does a great job with is our online classes. Our small group classes are meeting monthly. You can find them on the website. You can sign up and get engaged with a group. These groups meet 8 times or 8 weeks. So 8 different modules. The modules are all about different things. You can see on the screen here the types of things that are done in each of the modules. But some of the things that I find and want to point out are like the very first thing is really gauging where you are attitude-wise in your job search and how you're coming across, and all this type of assessments that are necessary to figure out that can be a real eye-opener for the job search, in the job search, and for the applicant and for the participant. So what I would highly recommend is if you're interested in learning more and getting in a group, sign up on the website, because there are classes available and they help with all the different things about job search. I mean, if you're having trouble with networking and need to know how to do it better and want to know more about what are the types of ways of networking, that's part of the targeting companies, how to search for companies, which ones are you looking for and how are you looking for them? That's part of the small group. What I really like about the small groups is that are people working together. If like for instance, when we met in person and you could meet with people, there was a lot of interaction between individuals. Well, getting the help of others in your job search can be really eye-opener in many cases. And also in the accountability, keeping each other accountable and making sure that you're doing the types of things that are making you successful in job search. So that's what we really like about what I really like about the small groups, and I think you'll find you'll really like about the small groups. We have a LinkedIn group. Type in MN Crossroads Career Network in the search bar, and you will find that there. And sign up. There's over 2,000 people in our LinkedIn group. If you liked our webinar tonight and you want to go see it, you can find it on our YouTube channel on the website. So please go out and look at it. All the previous ones are there. So go sign up for what you want to see. Additional resources. Thrivent is one of our big partners at Crossroads, and they have partnered with us with financial considerations during job search, some seminars. You can sign up for those on and I highly recommend it. Thrivent's been a great partner, and they help us out with a lot of things. And these financial seminars are well worth the time. Volunteers. We couldn't do Crossroads without our volunteers. Here's a cross section of some of those volunteers. You may know some of these people. If you do, thank them for their volunteering, because we all enjoy hearing from people who have been touched by Crossroads. If you're looking for a church home and you haven't, and you want to do it online or in person, check out the websites that are listed here, woodburylutheran.org, northheights.church, and grace.church. You'll find, maybe you'll find the church home that you've been looking for. That is our look-see into the webinar opportunities, or things that are free at Crossroads, and a little overview of what we have. Let's see, stop sharing. There we go. So if you're interested, sign up for an 8-week course. Networking every Thursday, one-on-one help through our consulting, our prayer support. Our next seminar will be next Thursday morning at 7:30. It'll be Jennifer Radke, excuse me, Jennifer Radke on LinkedIn and the in your job search, but beyond the basics. So if you've had the basics course and you want more, tune in next Thursday with Jennifer. I think you'll be well worth it. I hope this evening was worthwhile for you and that you got a lot out of it. Best wishes on your job search. Good night, and have a pleasant evening.